The day Margaret Wyndham called the sheriff on me for illegally fishing on her lake was the day she signed her own eviction notice. Because there I was at dawn casting my line at the same spot I had fished for 23 years, when this shrill voice cut through the morning like nails on a chalkboard, telling me I was trespassing on HOA waters. And soon enough the sheriff's deputy showed up looking uncomfortable as hell, apologizing and saying she had filed a complaint, and he had to ask me to leave. While Margaret stood there in her pastel outfit with that smug little smirk, but what she didn't know was that not only did I have permission to fish that lake, I actually owned the entire thing, every drop, and she had been illegally charging neighbors $200 a month to use my property. So I knew it was time to teach a bully that some fishing holes bite back. And as I packed up my tackle box with the snap echoing like a gunshot across the water, I thought of the history that tied me here. Because my name is Theo Blackstone, and I moved to Pine Ridge Lake back in 1999 after my wife Sarah passed from cancer at just 48, and I needed somewhere quiet to put the pieces back together. So I came to this 2-acre plot from my grandfather's estate, raw land with a view of the lake, and built the cabin myself, board by board, nail by nail, because when your hands are busy your heart hurts less, and this lake became my therapy. Every dawn casting my line into dark waters while mist rose like ghosts and loons called across the surface, and the smell of pine mixed with damp earth reminded me I was alive, while the crunch of gravel under my boots was the rhythm of healing. And Pine Ridge Lake itself was a 40-acre spring-fed beauty surrounded by old cabins like mine and later gaudy McMansions that sprouted around 2015. And while the original folks, blue-collar retirees, veterans, teachers, shared fish and tools and looked out for each other, things changed when Margaret Wyndham arrived 6 months ago, rolling in with her white BMW SUV and vanity plate. A divorcee with an $800,000 lakefront buy, 48 years old with helmet hair, and a corporate compliance officer background that explained her talent for turning conversations into hostile takeovers. Because within weeks, she organized a so-called concerned homeowners meeting with charts and PowerPoint slides about optimizing community assets and managing recreational liability, basically trying to sell us an HOA we never asked for, targeting everything that made our place special. Fishing restrictions, dock permits, landscaping rules like some country club, and worst of all, declaring the lake a common area requiring $200 monthly fees per household. And while she got 8 of the 23 properties to sign out of fear about property values, the rest of us got certified letters demanding enrollment. And when I called her to politely decline, she coldly told me it wasn't optional. But I told her I didn't have investments. I had a home. And after that, laminated signs popped up saying, "Private HOA property." And Margaret began policing me personally with binoculars from her window, taking pictures like I was a criminal. Until she called in that trespassing complaint, and after I left quietly, she doubled down by filing an actual written complaint with photos, even holding an emergency HOA meeting about noncompliance, labeling me and others as problem residents, while recruiting a retired bank manager, Dale, as treasurer to give her con some legitimacy, and soon violation notices rained down on neighbors like Betty with her harmless gnome collection, the Martinez family with their old boat, Frank with his vegetable garden, and the Johnsons with their long-standing dock. And when Betty showed me her letter with trembling hands, fearing $50 daily fines until she removed gnomes that had belonged to her late husband, I knew it was time to fight back. So I went to the courthouse where Joyce Miller, a clerk with saintly patience and encyclopedic memory, explained that Margaret's HOA paperwork was incomplete and illegal, missing surveys, property descriptions, and real authority. And that under adverse possession laws you can't just claim property by posting signs. And while I learned the law, Margaret escalated, hearing a young security guard to take photos at the boat launch. But when I politely asked his authority, he admitted he had none. And I fished anyway, waving for the camera, until he quit 3 days later. Then Margaret hired an attorney who sent me a cease and desist full of pompous legal jargon demanding $500 fees and compliance. But I laughed because I'd found in old county surveys mention of mineral rights in my grandfather's deed, which suggested I own more than just shoreline. So I hired a surveyor, Jake Patterson, who discovered my lot extended 30 feet further into the lake than anyone knew, plus possible ties to old mining claims. And then I received an anonymous note hinting, I should check the Thompson Mining Company records at the state archives. And meanwhile, Margaret went full dictator, building a white vinyl fence across the old fishing path, blocking elderly residents from doctor-ordered walks, and claiming safety and liability required it, while continuing her smear campaign with noise complaints, septic system allegations, dock violations, even rumors about my taxes and job. But through it all, Joyce educated me on riparian rights, the legal concept that owning land by water often gives you water usage rights. And then in the archives, I uncovered the truth. My grandfather had inherited not just land, but the entire lake bed itself, with mineral and water rights conveyed in perpetuity, meaning Margaret's entire HOA scheme rested on water she didn't own, because every inch of that lake legally belonged to me. And while she planned her big victory with petitions, PowerPoint slides, and a catered county meeting, believing she'd conquered us, I returned armed with deeds, surveys, and law on my side. Realizing Margaret's arrogance had blinded her to the fact that she was the one trespassing all along. And this fight wasn't just about fishing. It was about protecting neighbors like Betty and Frank, preserving the community we built with calloused hands and shared trust, and honoring the memory of mornings with Sarah when the lake was just ours. So as Margaret celebrated her hollow power, I smiled, knowing she had unknowingly picked the one man on Pine Ridge Lake she could never bully, because this wasn't her lake. Never had been. And soon enough she would learn the hard way that when you try to steal a fisherman's waters, you better be ready to drown in the truth.